different Black women who are into entrepreneurship, the creative arts, and just following their passion, following their dreams, and inspiring the world while doing so. So today we have Ken Dollaz, who is a DJ, a creative, a musical genius, I'm saying genius, okay? She's into different creative arts as well as music, production, and DJing. So tell us a little bit about your story, where you started, and just what brought you into music production.
Well, first, I want to thank you for having me.
Yes.
So with DJing, it was always something that I thought of. Like, I thought about it in high school. I have DJs in my family. So like, it really kind of was something that it's like written low key, but it didn't come to fruition until college.
So it was already in the works. It was like,
pretty much. Like, I had seen my families, like I'd go to like outings and stuff, see them spin and like know like, okay, like this is something that I'd want to do, but I never really like knew all that went into like getting started. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like all of us like growing up, we'd have like iTunes libraries and collect music and do all that. So it was a given, like, okay, like I know about music, but I don't want singles in my library. I don't want this to be messed up, you know? So that was kind of like what got me like delayed on my start until I got to college. And this was like 2015, so you could post a picture with a black screen with an address and everybody's gonna pull up. It'll be a full house, full night, and the party's good. So
I miss those days.
it was all so simple.
That's when Instagram was just about food.
Listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and my friends in college, we just decided like, okay, why don't we throw a party? And we made sure we knew who to talk to, who to get equipment from, who to kind of show me the ropes, you know, like going from one song to another. And I had so much fun that night. Like, I had so much fun that was like the last week of my first semester at Temple. I went home. I was working at like the local supermarket at the time. I saved up all my checks. I got my controller. So now I'm like in the game. I can play. I can, you know, practice on my own time. And I just kind of kept like meeting up with other DJs on campus, learning new things. And then that summer, that was the first summer after my first year of college. It was like I would go to work, come home, practice, repeat for the whole summers.
And where did you work?
I worked at this was at Dick's Sporting Goods. So I would work in Foot Locker, like the footwear area, you know, taking care of people, come home, just practice. And I did that for like an entire summer. And I felt like that was like the transition from like being okay to like, okay, she's good and she knows what she's doing and she can do gigs. And yeah, I haven't looked back since then.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Thank
when
you.
I think about DJing, I think of knowing how to create the vibes, right? It's knowing how to read the room and create the vibe. How did you step into setting the vibes?
So when I first learned how to like go from one song to another, my friend had told me it's about knowing, like having at least one song in your head before you play the song. So it's kind of like you're 2 steps ahead. So just understanding like where I'm trying to go and how I can build like steps or build like a path between songs to get there. So really it's like, if I'm looking at the crowd and I see like it's kind of dead, I'm not gonna quickly force everyone to get to the dance floor. I'm gonna play something that's gonna get them to the bar, get to the bar a couple drinks. You know, it's all about like telling a story and kind of taking people on that journey with you. And when you know what you're walking into, like how you're gonna do that, or like the fact that you're gonna do that, I think it just makes it easier, like looking around and understanding like, okay, they're ready to dance. Let me move this, you know, let me move this along a little bit. Or it's about to be midnight, let me shout out the birthday girl or whoever's coming here to celebrate something, you know? It's like just that intention behind understanding that people are here, like, you know, for a good time, people are here for an experience.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you notice that like being intentional in that way in your career and in your creative arts, like do you see that showing up in other areas of your life, like being 2 steps ahead in other areas?
Oh yeah, I feel like if that wasn't a thing, I wouldn't get to things on time, or
Right.
I wouldn't, you know, like gigs, like, you know, cause like we'll set up equipment, there might be something wrong, I might have to learn how to use the mixer in the moment if it's something I've never used before. So just like having that 2-step mindset always keeps me prepared, because in the world of DJing, it's always about pivoting, it's always about being adaptable, and yeah, I want to be able to move and be able to adapt and do those things. So yeah, it's definitely something that shows up because like I have to show up. It's not like, this isn't something that I can just kind of like load up or schedule. Like I literally have to show up. So me being that person outside of like my brand, outside of DJing, like it's definitely something that I can say shows up.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love it. That's actually really powerful. Okay. So when I imagine DJs, I always see tons of men on the card. I know it's a male-dominated industry, and that can get very, and that can get very heavy. So how do you operate in a space that's male-dominated like that?
So for a minute, it kind of took me some time to understand like the game itself and like the politics behind the music industry, DJing specifically, and how like gatekeeping is kind of like just going to be something that you experience regardless. But understanding like that I have skill and like I provide value when I show up to spaces, when it's time for me to spin, if I'm on a lineup with 3 other men and it's just me, whatever the case may be. I think like just kind of seeing that and like getting confidence in like the fact that I provide something with myself and my skill, and it's not like I have to like look outward for anyone to tell me or anyone to like show me, oh yeah, like you can do this or you can do that, you know, more so knowing I can do these things. So like how do we make that happen?
Right, absolutely. When you do see 3 men on the card and it's just you, when you step into the booth, your section, and you about to go crazy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, how do you create your own signature stance, your own imprint?
So first and foremost, I need everyone who's not my people out the booth. I feel like there's just so much, there's so much pressure with like having all these people like in my ear wanting to hear this and wanting to talk to me, all these things like, and I feel like the people that I come with, they know like this is where I work, this is my space, this is something that, you know, we can enjoy, but like I have a main focus and it's to play and it's to provide for the people.
I love that. It's setting a really important boundary.
Thank you. And I'm like learning that just as a creative with like getting more power to do things and like being in more positions, understanding like, okay, like I don't have to do things this way if that's how it's used to, you know, if that's like the protocol, I can do things my own way. And I have to be able to like speak up and say like, actually like this works better for me, you know?
Yeah. Would you say you always started off that way, or because it's such a male dominated industry, it kind of like shaped you into being that way? Like, did you first start off and was like, this is what I'm doing, everybody gotta get out? How did you create boundaries? Like, how did you go about that?
It was definitely like an experience thing. I didn't come out the gate like, you know, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm on. No, it was more like I had to like realize like if I didn't speak up, nobody would get out the way.
Right. Because sometimes I know like we play things small and we're like, we step in and we're like, oh, can we?
You know, because.
But it's like, how do you build up that, no, actually this is my space, you have to go?
It was just like, I feel like understanding that as a woman, I'm not going to be, or I may not be understood the way I want to be off rip. You know, there'd be times where like I'll speak up and a man will see it as me being ungrateful, or will see it as, no, seriously, like, you know, if they try to like extend an opportunity and like it doesn't work out all the way, I might be ungrateful, or they might think there's like something that I can't do, you know, for the reason why it didn't work out. And it was kind of like, no, like, things just happen, and like if I was a man, it wouldn't be anything different. It would kind of just be like, all right, we'll try to work it out another time, you know? Yeah. I think that a lot of men in the industry are kind of like conditioned to think that like we're just like, we're pieces to the puzzle and we have to like get in when we fit in. And it's like, no, like, no, like it's actually not that.
I think I'm actually on a whole nother puzzle. Like,
that's really what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not here to be small, like you said, and to like fit in where people think I am. I'm here to create my own space. I'm here to make my own mark, and like really just kind of create my own path regardless of what's come before me or what's done before.
Yeah, I actually really love that you're finding the peace and being misunderstood.
Because there are people who are dedicated to misunderstanding. Like, they don't know, you know, it's just like, I don't really care what she's saying. I do it this way, so this is how we're gonna do it. And it's like, well, I don't have to do it, you know?
I love that you built that confidence up. That's
Thank you.
Inspiring.
It's been a long time coming, I promise you.
Yeah, okay. That was fire.
Thank you.
So certain moments I gotta pause and be like, I'm gonna absorb that. So now that we know that this is a very male-dominated space and you are creating your own path, you're creating your own imprint, what are your next goals? Like, what's next for you? Like, what are some things that you are looking forward to for 2022?
I would say I'm looking forward to more autonomy with doing things.
And what does that look like for you?
That looks like being given the keys and that trust to kind of drive and go where I'm supposed to go and do what I want to do in terms of like creating events, making music with other artists. I definitely like to secure some placements with like beats that I've been making. I'd like to be on parties that are like notably like the most popular parties like within the city. We were talking earlier about how like New York was like starting over in a sense since like I started DJing in Philly. So I definitely want to become more of a front runner in the city in terms of like who's hot, whose party we're going to, who are we looking out for the next event. Yeah, honestly, just more like overcoming obscurity and like people not necessarily knowing about me. I think that's really like my next goal because the talent's here. You know, it's just about more people knowing like what I can do or seeing what I can do. So putting myself in a position to be seen.
So just to compare like Philly and New York, and being that Philly was where you first started, like what did you learn from there that you're ready to like bring to New York and like change the space out here in New York, or to elevate your brand, or like get these parties and get all the things that you want to do next for 2022?
So one thing I gotta give Philly is like the open format style.
What's that?
Open format basically means that you can play more than 5 genres. And when you think about it, it's very easy. Like hip hop, R&B, dancehall, soca, house, that's 5. You know, we didn't get into
one set. Okay.
Yeah, so like one set could be 1 hour, one set could be 4 hours, but like my set being able to move through different genres, that's open format.
Oh, that's cool.
Thank you. It's like
I'm not in like all the vibes.
Yeah, like literally all the vibes, like adhering to all the people and being able to create an experience. So it's not like, oh, we didn't hear this, or I was looking to hear this and the DJ didn't play that, you know, right. Or even like, I never heard this song before, or I haven't heard this song in a minute, you know, like things like that. Like that's like the root of open format. It's not the same thing all night. It's not 2 genres all night, you know, it's like, it's a nice balance. So just being able to take that playing style and bring it to New York and introduce like just different things and different sounds to the people here. That's definitely something that I'm looking to bring to New York. Technicality, Philly is like, I didn't even know coming into Philly that Philly's like the mecca of DJing. Oh. Like some of the best DJs come from Philly. A lot of like the scratches and cuts, even the way like we hold the turntable, like it all came from Philly. And
oh wow, I didn't know that.
It's called like battle styles because the needle was like in the way before when people would like be on turntables, so they turned it like from being horizontal to vertical so that the needle's not in the way. Like all those things come from Philly, and I feel like the fundamentals and like the basics and stuff, like that technicality, turntablism, like I'm definitely trying to bring that back to New York. And it's crazy that I say back to New York because like DJing and hip hop got started in New York, but like, you know, things advance in other cities and stuff, and like the DJs here might not be as technical as the DJs in Philly, so like I'm trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Because I feel like iron sharpens iron, so if there's a bunch of DJs in this city that can cut up and do all these things, the DJs here have no choice but to keep up.
Right. Oh. That's really cool. So what would you say fulfills you? Like what brings happiness to you? Or if DJ is fulfilling, which I'm sure it is, like how does that fulfillment translate into other areas of your life? Like what makes you happy? It kind of sounds like 2 different questions. So I'm just leaning into like what makes you happy, what fulfills you, and how does DJing play a role, or how does musical production and creation play a role in fulfilling, like watering your cup? Like how does it water your cup?
So I know that like music is a vessel for creativity and connecting with people. So when that connection comes back to me, whether that looks like someone telling me, oh, you played this song one time, you know, and it could be a set from like months ago, like just being able to like recall the experience from when I was DJing, that means a lot. That's definitely fulfilling because it lets me know like, you know, I did my job and like that connection had translated to that person enough for months later they remember that and they're like willing to tell me that too and share that with me.
People never forget how you make them feel.
And
like
that, yeah, no, seriously. I'm like, fulfillment looks like being able to move on my own terms. with DJing, with like just in life in general, and the fact that like me living on my own terms is like fueled with me DJing and working with music, that makes me happy, because this doesn't feel like a job, it doesn't feel like work. And even the things that I do that like actually work, like loading up equipment and, you know, packing all my stuff and setting up all these things beforehand with no help, like I understand like that part is just as important as like the fun part. So, you know, it makes it just understanding like the fact that actually doing the work, like people say like the dream is in the doing that work, like it makes everything else like it's not work, and that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. Oh, that is so nice. All I heard was like fulfillment and freedom.
Yeah.
Fulfillment and freedom.
Fulfillment and freedom. Yeah, the two words. No, for real. Like fulfillment and freedom is like priority when it comes to this thing, because it's so easy to get caught up and to like be stretched in like a bunch of different areas as a creative. So like, yeah, fulfillment and freedom is like priority.
So what is your routine, like your wellness routine? Like how do you take care of yourself?
My routine looks like not speaking to anyone professionally before 10 o'clock.
Right.
I'll schedule emails and stuff to be sent out at 8 a.m., but it's like before 10 o'clock, like, no. Like I gotta like get to me first. I read in the morning, I journal, you know, I set intentions. I do all the self-work, the work that, you know, happens before you actually get into the booth, to get your mind right, to get like the setting right. All of that takes priority before it's actually time to like get into work.
Yeah, so what kind of books do you like to read? And like your own personal playlist, what does that look like? Like you wake up in the morning, you're not talking to nobody before 10. What music we listening to?
I like to listen to a lot of Kendollaz. I feel like the sounds, the movement, like, yeah. I think about that concert every single day. I went to see him in October, and like, yeah, the concert was like life-changing. So I definitely got Kendollaz on my playlist. I listen to a lot of Cleo Soul.
Me too.
Yo.
When I'm in your arms.
Have you heard her new album, Mother?
Yes, I listen to it from top to bottom, sunshine, everything. It's in here.
It's like the healing properties in the music. Yeah, it definitely like, there's more music that I listen to on my own time that I don't actually play, and like I'm trying to bridge that gap, but the music that I listen to on my own time is more like not so much instrumentation, but like more in the lyrics and like what I'm hearing. It's like soother sounds. In terms of books that I'm reading like 3 or 4 books right now.
Really? What type of genres are we into? Like as a creative DJ, a music genius, like what books are we reading? Like what genres?
I'm reading self-improvement, I'm reading productivity books, like all like literally anything that'll help me work better as a creative. Back like in 2020, I read Creative Quest by Questlove, and like,
I've heard about that book.
You gotta read that book.
Yeah.
And it was such like, it was like a blueprint of how to work when you're not really feeling like your most creative self. He told so many stories of like creatives that he worked with throughout the years, like how they got out of their funks and stuff, like just like personal anecdotes from his experience as a musician, and being able to see those things and take like the skeleton, okay, this is how they did this is how they got out of this, and this is how I can apply it to like, how I can apply this method to my madness in a sense.
Yeah, and how have you applied certain things? Like what do you do when you're not really in the mood to be creative, you're not in the mood to make a beat, you're not in the mood to even DJ, like how do you push through and like get there? So you know that's really hard as a creative entrepreneur.
When it's just not coming to you.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll do something creative in like another form.
I love that.
Because like you still get like the muscles working, it might spark an idea, you know, like I feel like if you spend so much time trying to like think of something, you're probably not gonna think of it. The second you like detach and you move on to something else, like it's gonna come to you. So it's like, all right, I know this isn't working for me right now. How can I like still flex this creative muscle and get these things going, get my brain going, so like when I come back to this, I'm in a better space, I'm in the mood, I'm warmed up. It's like, okay, this is, you know, it's easier to facilitate. Another book that I read, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weiss. That's a book kind of about like self-sabotage and like getting out of your own way. That was definitely a good book. I read The Alchemist.
I like The
The Alchemist, like just like those books that kind of just remind you of like the whole, like the grand scheme of life. Like how there's gonna be ups and downs, there's gonna be things that don't work, and at some point, like you're gonna get through it and you're gonna move past. So gotta stick around.
Yeah. So what do you like to do creatively?
Outside of DJing, music production is definitely something that I've been like getting my hands wet with. I'm learning still kind of getting over the learning curve of making beats because it's like a whole nother ballpark with music. Like you have to like learn the actual sounds that are like associated with the genres that you want to make, and then like the actual process of like, okay, how do these things go? So I'm like doing that. I watch a lot of videos of people making beats. I try to like make a beat. If I'm trying to make a dancehall beat, I'll watch a tutorial, make it with them with like my sounds and like my cadences and stuff. I recently got into photography, film photography to be exact. I just like, I don't know. I personally, if it was up to me, I would step outside my body during my gigs and just take my own pictures. Cause I'll look back and I'll see pictures like, all right, like maybe this could have been like, you know, yeah, we could have went a little crazy on, you know. So I just got into like the habit of taking pictures so that I can see things from my lens. I can get pictures on my own end and not have to like rely on someone to take pictures of me or take pictures of like the things that I do and the things that I experience. I would definitely say that's like something like, it's becoming one of like my favorite creative vessels just because I don't feel any pressure. I don't feel like, you know, any need to like monetize it and start taking bookings and stuff. It's literally just something for me to do and enjoy.
Yeah. I love that you feed your creative child. Like, I think that is just so important. But you mentioned a learning curve, right? And I know when we're trying to learn something, it's that awkward stage where you don't want to get it wrong and it's ego that's like,
It definitely is ego.
It's a lot of ego. So how do we dismember that? Like, how do we get rid of ego? Like, how do we push through that and allow ourselves to play and learn?
So I think it's kind of like unpacking like why we're doing these things. Like for a minute, I would say like, okay, I want to make beats, I want to produce, but I wouldn't open up the program to make music. I wouldn't, you know, take that time to actually do those things. And it was like, okay.
Always say we're gonna do it. Oh, I'm gonna do it. 2022, I'm gonna do it.
And then you look back and it's like 5 months and you haven't done anything that you said you was gonna do. So like, it's really kind of just allowing yourself to start and allowing yourself to like not be good off rip. You know, you're not gonna be good at everything off rip. There's gonna be things that you get and it's like, you know,
it's
easy.
Quick.
Yeah, it's quick, but that wasn't really something, or it's not something that's like the easiest for me. Regardless of any kind of like music experience that I've had before, like it's nothing like making music and starting from scratch and like making something from nothing. So it started with like, again, understanding like, why am I doing this? Why am I not like, you know, it's a matter of opening the program and like starting to make a beat. So like, what's the problem? And it was the idea that I had of myself. I like put myself in such a box at a point thinking like, okay, like it's DJ, like, you know, that's all I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, it was because like I'm so passionate about the craft, but I realized like there's other things that I can excel in. There's other things that I can provide value in, and like, I have to allow myself to start somewhere, you know? So once I took that kind of like pressure off myself to like be as good of a producer or like, you know, show up in that same kind of capacity, it was easier for me to get started and to see different things and to learn and like just like have an easier time getting through the actual learning curve.
That is so nice. You know, because I think a lot of us try to fight our ego. We be like, but I think you're more like, let me hug my ego. Let me just be nice to my ego. It's okay. You won't fuck up. It's all right. I'm starting. And I don't think we do that often. So that's really inspiring.
Thank you. The next step is like kind of getting my ego to understand like it's okay to put out the work if it's not perfect. That's literally where I'm at right now. Yeah. Because like I'm doing the work, but has it, you know what I'm saying?
Like this, when it's time to hit post or send, it's like,
actually, so let me keep this in my drafts.
Yeah. Wow. So how do you push through that though? You just hit send, you're like, oh, this is what it is, or?
So I'll send it out to like creatives that I trust, creatives that I know, like, you know, will tell me like, if this needs work, like this needs work, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to put anything out that like isn't like, that doesn't represent me, that isn't of quality, that isn't of intention and stuff. So it's really a matter of like, it's not saying like I need approval from everyone around me before I put something out, but kind of just like starting with sharing with who I can be intimate with and who I can be vulnerable with and open, and then like, all right, this is cool, let me put it out to the world.
I love that you have a creative network, and it sounds like you're very intentional with your network. So how do you build a network of people that you trust? Are there other women that you inspire you, or that you set out to be like, or has helped you shape your craft in a certain way?
So building those relationships, I would say what means the most is the in-person, or like the in-person connections, or the genuine connections that you make. It's not always like, all right, let me give this person my elevator speech and run down everything, like I'm talking to someone who I'm trying to sell something to. A lot of times it could just be, look, this is what I do, this is who I am, I like what you're doing, and like, just seeing where things go from there. It doesn't have to be like, strictly business off rip, because like a lot of the DJs that I work with, like I'm friends with too. And I think that makes a difference, like being able to be comfortable with the people that you work with, like outside of the work.
Right, so just organic and just allow it to flow.
Yeah, and like it's actually funny that you say like women like paving the way with like how I got started and like my own craft. When I got started, there were a lot of men, like literally like bare men in positions to like help and positions to do things and make shit shake. So I wouldn't even really say that like there were too many women that I came across in terms of like being ahead of me or being somewhere to like be like a mentorship in terms of opening doors. When I first got started, there were more women. No, because like it's a male-dominated industry, but there were a lot of women like kind of like on the same level.
Of course.
Like, trying to like make those same strides at the same time. DJ Nash from Philly was definitely someone I came up with. Doing events, and just really navigating the same spaces, understanding like, okay, like you had trouble getting to this venue, me too. Let's see who we can talk to. Let's see, So that definitely like made space for me to understand more, like that it wasn't just me, and it was like kind of like a thing. This is the game. This is how politics work. So seeing other women like again making those strides and carving their own path, it kind of just like affirmed the fact that like I could do it too.
Yeah, so being that there wasn't much space for like you to look up towards other women or like be inspired by other women, do you feel like you're now in a position to be that person, to be that source?
I do. It's actually kind of crazy because like I've been DJing for 6 years, and like there's a lot that I've done and there's a lot that I haven't done. And then when I look back, and like there's people who want to learn how to DJ from me, or want to, just anything that has to do with like me teaching someone and like showing someone something that I already know how to do. It's like, it's crazy thinking that like, me as a student in other games, still learning things, still adopting things and picking things up, I'm in a position to actually like pay it forward still and like show someone something that I learned maybe 3 years ago, and tomorrow pick something up from someone. It's really an interesting thing, understanding like the learning thing about this whole craft never stops. So yeah, I'm definitely in a position, I want to be in a bigger position to like extend resources and like get more women DJs in spaces, and even just get more women to become DJs, because again, it's a male-dominated industry, but it doesn't mean that there can't be more women.
Right. Okay, so firstly, I want to give you your flowers. I just want to say thank you. This is so inspiring. You have moved me in several different ways just sitting here, being around you, honestly.
Thank you.
Who do you want to give flowers to?
I want to give my flowers to Kim Chanel.
Okay.
She is in the management position right now within the music industry, making a lot of strides considering, for real. Considering that like, I don't see many women like in management positions. I don't see many women like, just kind of like breaking through those barriers. I see a lot of women in other positions within the music industry, but again, I'd like to see more, like way more.
Yeah, absolutely. What type of positions would you like to see more women in when it comes down to the music industry or just the creative arts industry?
I'd like to see more women in A&R positions.
Right.
I feel like we know what's hot.
Right. We do know what's hot.
Yeah,
we set what's hot.
We set what's hot. We know what's hot. And then on top of that, like when you think about like nightlife and like music, well, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I play for women. the women bring the men to the party, and that's where the money comes in.
Can we talk about it?
We can talk about it.
I play for women.
I do. I play for women, and I feel like it's important to understand, like, it's not just us being the product. It's not just us being like the pawns. We need to be in those positions to make shit shake. We need to be in positions so that like more women can come in and things can be done differently than how they've been done in the past,
What other spaces would you say? Would you say photographers? Because I know you said that you wish somebody would take your pictures.
Yes.
Right. You think a woman would hit your angle?
I feel like a woman would know. Because I had a conversation with my friend about that actually. Like when we were thinking about who to contract for an event, it was like, okay, like these pictures look nice, but let's see women in these pictures. Because how do we know if they can catch the angles, like you said? How do we know if they're able to capture what we want captured in the right light? So I definitely want to see more Black women photographers, videographers as well. Because like as like a woman in nightlife, I would like to see more women working as well.
That's such a great point.
Just
More
being
women should
comfortable,
be in
yeah,
nightlife.
so that women can show up and be comfortable as well, enjoying themselves. If it's not, just bare men in the spot working, being there, bartending, all these things. I would like to see more women in creative director positions so that ideas can be fleshed out like fully through a Black woman's lens.
Absolutely.
And I would like to see more women in CEO positions. Like CEO positions, like calling the shots and really understanding like they know what might be best for the company. So like, let's do what's best for the company.
And listen to Black women. Just listen.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we discussed that it would be awesome for more women to be for more women to be CEOs, for more women to be videographers, creative directors, photographers, like in the position to move pieces around and just make things shake. How can we go about like getting that done? What are some practical ways you think that we can start doing more for her?
I think it starts with asking questions. I know Black women aren't gonna present the same way in creative expressions. Like we're all gonna show up differently. So I think like, we'll have different needs and different things that we need done to make our dreams come true and to make our vision clear to everyone else. I think people are starting to see like, women are capable of a lot, but I think they're kind of afraid of like what we can do. So because of that fear, like people might hold back on resources or hold back on like things to really make everything come together. I don't know if that's because like they're not willing to do the work to kind of like step up on their own end, or they're just kind of afraid of like losing power or position on their end. But I think
we need them to read them books. All the three books that you said, we need them to dismantle their ego.
Check their ego, kill their ego, and understand that like, there's just things bigger than like your own like self-limiting beliefs in terms of like what you think women can do or what women are capable of or what a woman in a position means for you.
Right, absolutely. So who can be an ally? Who can help us?
If you have connections to venues, if you have connections to studios so that the work can actually be done, if you are someone who even just knows someone like looking for people to be featured for things, Black women should be first. Black women's Black women's story should be prioritized. I think that would really show true allyship for Black women.
Absolutely, and I would even go further to say like even sharing resources all the time. Like even if you're not in the industry, just retweeting things or just sharing information, spreading it, letting people know that there are more opportunities for Black women and just how to get started. I also love that you just mentioned asking questions. So my question would be, how do we find out the right questions to ask? Because it's hard to ask certain questions when you've never been in that space before. So what would you say like some of the right questions would be for Black women to start pivoting in certain spaces that aren't necessarily created for us?
So you can state your intention first and say like, listen, like I want to help you in any way I can. I want to put you on. I want to, well, not even say put you on, because I feel like that also creates like, I'm giving you something, whatever,
let
but
me
like,
pick your brain.
Yeah, but more like, I'd like to help facilitate this, or I'd like to be a brick in this, in this story and building
I
this.
love that.
I
want to add value. How can you add value?
How can I add value? Or I'd like to add value, and then ask the question, okay, like, what does showing up for you look like in this space? Or how can I do this? How can I add value? Because then at that point, it's up to us to understand, like, okay, like, what do I need? Or how can this person help me? And how can they add value? Yeah, I'm cooking.
Okay, so in terms of basking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are at Bask. What does basking mean to you? What does it look like to bask?
I bask by redefining the way music is seen, heard, and felt.
Oh, that was fire.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, I absolutely love that. And that wraps up the More For Her series. We have Kendollaz in the building. She absolutely helped us be more inspired, read the right books, step into different lanes. Don't be afraid to just start things. And I just want to give you all of your flowers, the roses, the petals, the florets, everything that comes in a bouquet.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
So just thank you for being here so much. Thank you for basking with us. And thank you for being a part of More For Her and creating a space for more women to excel.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Ooh. No, this is so good.